Good morning. My name is Deacon Tim Donohue. I'm a deacon at Holy Name Parish in West Roxbury, located in Boston, Massachusetts. But I'm talking to you today as a global fellow for Catholic Relief Services. The Global Fellows have put together these virtual homilies for Lent, and I'm so happy that you're taking advantage of this opportunity to learn a little bit more about Catholic Relief Services. The gospel today, as you just heard, is a story about Jesus in the temple and getting so angry with the people doing business there. The people selling offerings, the animals, the doves and the sheep, for instance, and the money changers. He had had enough of them and he just chased them out. He was very angry. For years I thought he was just against people doing business in the temple. But as I thought about it, I want to kind of open that up a little bit and see if we can look a little deeper at why he might have been so angry. First, let's look at the temple and the business around Passover. It was big business. Every Jew was asked or expected to join in the festivities in Jerusalem once in their lifetime at Passover. And so at any year during this time, there could be as many as 2 million people there. And all of them needed to pay a temple tax. So if you go to the temple, you make a sacrifice and you pay a temple tax. The vendors were selling animals for the sacrifice, and the money changers were helping to make change for the people for the temple tax. You could certainly buy a dove outside the temple inexpensively, but once you went inside the temple, the markup on these birds was enormous, 5 and 6 and 7 times what you'd pay out on the street. But the problem was that the priest might not accept it as an unblemished sacrifice. The money changers would have to change money so people could pay the temple tax in temple coinage. And people didn't run around outside of the temple with temple coinage. They had Roman money, and some people came from far away and they might have money from their own country. And so what would happen is they'd pay to have their money changed and to get the exact amount of money they needed to pay their tax. The tax wasn't huge. It was perhaps 2 days' wages for those working, but the money changer fee was enormous, extravagant. And this was an especially hard thing to stomach for the people, the poor people there, who had already made a great sacrifice just to get to the temple. So these money changers were taking advantage of the people, especially the poor people, and what made it even worse is they were taking advantage of those people in the name of the temple. Jesus tossed them out, whipped them right out of there. So what can we learn from this gospel today? I think we can break this down into 2 little pieces here that help me understand it a little better. What were those vendors, those businessmen doing, and why were they doing it? I think they were doing it because what were they doing? They were providing a service to the people for the temple itself. That's how they got to be inside the temple. Without the animals, they couldn't make a blood sacrifice, and without the coinage, they couldn't pay the temple tax. Why they were doing it is a different story. Obviously, they were greedy. They were making a lot of money, and they made money by marking these things up exorbitantly. So they were motivated perhaps by making money, not by helping people practice their religion. And there's the great sin, I think. The fact that the money changers would charge these poor people that barely had enough money to pay the tax more money than they might have even had just to give them the right coin. We can see why Jesus was so angry. And on top of that, it's clear that the priests who would make a determination whether the sacrifice was blemished or unblemished often were appointed by the Romans. The Jewish leadership was not in charge in Jerusalem. The Roman leadership had a lot of influence there. And so all of this got even murkier and murkier. And Jesus, we can just see him getting angrier and angrier. So what can we learn from this today to take home when we leave church? Well, I think we can break this down into a pretty simple message. We can look at what we do and why we do it. What we do. There were some jobs I had that I was very happy about, and there were some jobs that I really wasn't. And I didn't stay for long. I moved on to something else. Some jobs where I felt I was helping people and providing a service, and some jobs that I just did not feel comfortable about. And I'm sure you've seen or had that same experience. So I think we need to think about, does our job help us do what we're called to do here on earth? Provide for our family, pay the mortgage, pay the car payment, and make ends meet in the family. The next question is, why do we do it? Well, do we do it to pay the mortgage and to pay the car payment and make ends meet for our family? Or do we have some other ulterior motive? I think of St. Matthew's beatitude, the pure of heart. Deep down inside, why do we do what we do? Are we doing it to make money? Are we greedy? Or to help others? Or are we doing it to fulfill the gospel message and fulfill the purpose that Jesus has put us here on earth to perform? One organization that I want to talk about for just a minute that is absolutely the polar opposite, and it's such a contrast to the Temple Hoodlums in the gospel today, is Catholic Relief Services. They were organized during World War II to help refugees fleeing the war on the continent. And since then, they've been funded by you and your fellow Catholics across the country. They now serve over 159 million people in over 150 countries around the world every year. One program they sponsor during Lent is Rice Bowl. Your donations will go to people in need of helping, not just with a meal. They don't just feed people, but they do that. But they give instructions, and they train people how to grow different crops or better crops based on the climate. And they give them seeds and livestock, and they develop water programs so they can water their crops. All of this to sustain themselves, to make enough money to get by, and maybe buy clothes for their kids and maybe pay so that they can go to school. I saw firsthand myself in Kenya how the wonderful people of CRS, it's heartwarming to see people work so hard. They had a blackboard right down in the field teaching people the rudiments of growing kale in their climate. And I watched a mother taking that class, going home and putting that information to work. She was an AIDS widow. She had lost her husband to AIDS and her children, and she adopted a child, and she was taking care of her mother-in-law with the skills that she learned from CRS, how to grow different crops, how to raise different kind of livestock, and how to find the medication she needed to cope with the AIDS that she had also. So in our gospel today, we're challenged, I think, to look at what we do and why we do it. It gets complicated, I know that, and we can go off course if we succumb to the wrong motivations. Rice Bowl is a program to help you and your children learn how to do things for the gospel purposes that Jesus talks about. It's a little way of helping other people. You can do it simply in this age of COVID with just a piece of paper that says CRS Rice Bowl, and put it up on the wall in a bowl there and try to collect funds, money every day, and money you save. We have the same gospel message of service that Jesus shares with us every Sunday. Remember, to participate in Rice Bowl, please visit crs.org. God bless.